Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining Lebron for Hartford tonight as we talk about how to make Hartford economically thriving for all. My name is Candace Dorman. I'm the campaign manager for Lebron for Hartford, and I will be opening up our conversation tonight. Tonight, we have Councilman Nick Lebron and Selena Chambers. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. So we're going to get into a great conversation in a few minutes. But before we do that, I just want to do a couple housekeeping items before we get started. This recording, you're watching it as a recording, it'll be posted on lebronforhartford.com and also on our socials. Councilman Nick Lebron is running for mayor, and that's what we're here talking about, his vision for the city and also about things that matter to the residents of Hartford. Another thing I want to make sure that you are aware of is that Election Day is coming up. It is Tuesday, November 7th, and we want to make sure that you're going to meet us at the polls. If you have any questions about if you are currently registered to vote or if you need a ride to the polls, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at lebronforhartford@gmail.com. Lastly, if you'd like to get involved with the campaign, with the Lebron for Hartford campaign, again, reach out to us by email at lebronforhartford@gmail.com or find information and sign up on our website at lebronforhartford.com. All right, so let's just jump right in. I want to do a quick introduction for Councilman Nick Lebron. He is a husband, father, and Hartford son to Puerto Rican parents. He was born and raised in Bellevue Square and found love at Hartford High School. He started his education as an adult learner, which is really important. I'm sure he'll lean into that during the conversation, at Capital Community College, and then went on to get his BS in psychology from Trinity and his master's in public health at Trinity. We talk a lot about the risk factors that face a lot of our residents of Hartford, and he himself also faced many of those risk factors as a teen parent. Him and his wife, Millie, had their 3 children by the time they were 20. And so he has done a lot in himself and with his family to overcome a lot of these things that so many people will find that they recognize, so many things that happen to our young people in the city, and him and his wife were able to get through that with the help of tons of really wonderful people in the community who they were able to lean on. Next, I want to introduce Selena Chambers, who is an entrepreneur and daughter to Jamaican and Antiguan. I just wanted to say Antiguan, but that's the Jamaican in me. A daughter to Jamaican and Antiguan American parents. She graduated from Virginia Wesleyan University with a BA in International Studies and Philosophy. She is passionate about the work of financial education because she herself has experienced the financial challenges of paying her own way through college and is passionate about teaching and providing better financial opportunities for others. They are going to get way deeper into their backgrounds and their visions for the city and the future of Hartford. So I'm going to turn it over to them. I'm really excited to hear this conversation between the two of you, and I will check back in at the end as we close the conversation. If you have any questions, please feel free to write them in the chat or in the comment section wherever you're watching this video, and we'll try to get back to you as soon as we can. All right, I'm gonna turn it over to you, Selena. You're driving the bus tonight.
Okay, thank you so much, Candace. Nick, thank you so much for taking your time to have this conversation with me. I am super excited about your campaign and what it really means for the city of Hartford. And just you as an example of really that great things come from this city. So just to open up the conversation, I want to know, what does Hartford economically thriving look like from your perspective?
Well, I think economically thriving is meeting people where they are and understanding the diverseness of the socioeconomic status that we have in Hartford. You know, a lot of people like to describe Hartford as a poor city, and yes, we have the largest wealth gap in the state. But we do have people that are on different scales, and so it's important to be able to address that. oftentimes when I speak about economically thriving, folks that are interested in business and development, they for some reason get fearful about that in terms of when I talk about the opportunities and the intentionality of focusing on the neighborhoods. So I don't think it's a zero-sum game. I think there's opportunities everywhere in Hartford, and we welcome everybody to come and participate. Economically thriving, though, I think specifically in terms of policies, I think about attracting new and quality businesses. I think about revitalizations and focusing on neighborhoods specifically and things that are specific to those neighborhoods. I think about over decades of time that there has been disinvestments in certain neighborhoods for a long period of time, and we have to change that. I think also, like with the small business concept, we need to also develop minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, and do a better job of advocating that and allow access to opportunities. One of the things that I plan on doing in my Hartford Success Plan is creating a bridge center that has a focus with business development, where small business folks can help with that process. The other thing, too, in terms of going through the bureaucracy of government and going through the bureaucracy of the business side of government, being able to really track that and try to expedite those services for folks. So because every day that they wait is a dollar spent. I think about, community benefit agreements and clawbacks on any kind of agreement that we have where folks can't take advantage of Hartford like they have done in the past. We've done a lot of sweetheart deals where folks, it sounds good at the beginning, but we pay in the end. It's almost as kicking the can down the road. We need to encourage growth and community investment. And really focus on what we're doing with our city-owned property. A lot of our own, we talk about blighted properties, but we have to hold the mirror to ourselves and look at our blighted properties and our own properties itself as opportunities to be an example for folks in the city. And, I think one of the biggest things for me is I have a tagline of people, purpose, and progress. And so we have to measure progress, and we have to understand data, and we have to know our people better off. We cannot continue to operate in this world of anecdotal and stories. In order to hold systems and people and development accountable, we have to use data tracking mechanisms in order to do that. And that's the progress piece. And so that way I plan to be open and transparent to say how we're doing. And I expect my constituents and all the folks in Hartford and my people in Hartford to hold me accountable as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for that. You kind of touched on my next question when it comes to small business owners and entrepreneurship, but I actually want to tie it into what you said, just holding people accountable and using data. We all want to grow, and sometimes it's really easy to kind of say, like, I'm growing, but we don't really know where we're growing. Someone said to me a couple of days ago, they said, are you growing or are you swelling? Because those are not the same. And so definitely tracking with a clear plan. And you mentioned the small business owner. Could you speak a little bit more to where does entrepreneurship fit into your plan of the healing of Hartford economically? And what does the small business center really look like in practicum? Because I think that's something that could excite people and people would buy into if they understood it a little bit more in depth and the metrics that it would take to really own a business.
Yeah, I think, so one of the things that I've always said for a long period of time, and if folks have worked with me, is the understanding that data drives the dollars, right? And so they should be linked, and that these dollars and these datas can ultimately drive our destiny as a city. And so, what does it look like? I think we can talk about policies, but I want to talk about my experiences as a small business owner and being a business owner in partnership with my wife. I had 4 businesses and small businesses, and every single time that I opened these businesses, I had the dream. I remember calling my mama up and saying, Mom, this is it. We're going to do it. I'm going to buy you this house. I got this plan. I'm going to invest this money. This is the plan. I remember being so excited to think about being my own business owner and doing something that I was passionate about and something that I love, and being financially rewarded for those things and having that excitement. There's something about folks believing in themselves is the ultimate American dream, and we need to provide these things for folks in Hartford. And so, then you engage on the journey and you realize that what you're passionate about, the whatever it is, rather if it's being art or being a musician or selling pottery or selling clothing or any of those things, what ends up happening is you understand the business side very quickly. And there's a reason why 95% of businesses, small businesses, close within the first year. And there's a lot of systems that take advantage of that, because research shows there's an understanding that folks don't have the knowledge, the wherewithal, and the financial backing to be able to run through the bureaucratic red tape. So when I talk about permitting and the ability or inability to have a permit or some kind of block from the city, that can be a financial burden. And as every day, every hour on that clock, the clock is ticking, and all of those cost small business owners money. And so we have to, in terms of data and data tracking, is put a timer on these things, put an ability to look to see how long folks are there. The other thing with the Bridge Center, I think specifically, is you would have something called a concierge service. It's similar to, I'm a social worker by trade, but it's similar to what we would call a case manager, right? And so the goal for this concierge service would be to get the person what they need in the quickest time possible. And we would track the staff at City Hall on that same metric. So their goal is just equal. Their successful outcome is based upon the success and the opportunities of these small businesses. And so now we can really hone down in, and instead of saying, it's systems, maybe we could look at specific workers who have, issues with this or don't have the knowledge base for this or that, or get down into specifics and extract those data. So that way we can help people in the city of Hartford.
That's powerful. That is, and business owners all across the country would agree that bureaucracy is tiresome. It
Yes.
can be tiresome.
Yeah.
And it definitely is. I talk to business owners all the time. It's probably one of the most, or aspiring business owners more so. It's one of the most intimidating things when it comes to, I have a skill, I have a trade. Do you want to go into business for yourself? I don't really know if I can do all the paperwork and stuff like that. And so
Right.
definitely probably sitting on insurmountable potential in the city of Hartford, just because there isn't that clarity of how do I get to the next step. So that I think that would be very powerful for the city of Hartford, and really taking more ownership for the people, and also creating an economically thriving environment when it comes to money, finance, and just really rebuilding a community that is owned by the people who live here.
Yeah, Selena, thank you for that. And I think it's important to understand that. But the other thing, I want to just dive a little bit deeper. I know we were talking about small businesses, and that's my background, is within small businesses. But, to talk about the larger developments, when folks talk about small businesses, the larger developers and the opportunities for those, they get a bit nervous that the focus is going to be shifted away. But they have the same issues, right? And they run into the same barriers. And so we can create that same system for them. Now, what we would do is we would have people that have more expertise in certain areas, right? Smaller business or medium size, and then match the people up. And then, with folks that with an understanding in the background to help those folks get through. We're living in a society where everything wants to be done quickly, right? And so what we're seeing is more automation, and so folks go in and they want things done in the right way. So as a response, most services, the city of Hartford is no different. You try to divert folks to the internet. and different systems. And then in terms of the customer, you lose the customer service when you do that, when you defer to a 1-800 number. And what we're seeing and what we're finding is folks want to go back to that old school, like kind of speaking to someone. I don't know how many times we call someone and we just press 0 because we don't want to, we just want to speak to the operator and the human, and we'd rather deal with that than the, and these automated systems are supposed to be more efficient, but there's this human element that you can't ignore that ultimately provides the experience. We are here to serve the people in the city of Hartford, and we need to understand that and get back to it at its roots.
That's powerful. That's powerful. Especially after COVID, that is going to be a powerful shift in like really creating a better community, creating a better people who are connected to each other will do business with each other, and they'll trust each other. And we know that when there's trust in the community, the whole community can thrive. And then in whatever way, whether it's economics, whether it's safety, and we know that here safety is something that people care deeply about. So
deeply.
Yeah. And when it comes to just building up Hartford, we create the opportunity for businesses to come and invest, and then we create the opportunity for people who live here to invest in themselves and take ownership. But there's still always a shift that has to take place internally, like we said. And so that cultivation of trust, for you have the experience of kind of rebuilding yourself, rebuilding your family, and economically thriving on your own. What would you say when it comes to you? What financial shifts did you have to make personally to be a successful individual in Hartford and then stay in Hartford? Because research will show people become successful in Hartford, but then they leave. But you stayed, and you've created success, and you obviously made some shifts financially and just for yourself. So can you speak a little bit to that and how those shifts are made, and what would you tell people who live in the city of Hartford?
So I think that I'm uniquely blessed in that the biggest shift was, my wife, and understanding and trusting my wife with the finances for the most part on certain things. And so, but I think that's the big difference, I think, with the city is understanding that, there has to be a trust level in the people that you engage with, and that relationships matter, and that you have to have that trust level. But then also in terms of the financial shift that I experienced was understanding that with each growth opportunity that I had, and financial growth opportunity, was to not change my lifestyle. Right. I think that was the biggest lesson that I learned from when I was younger to as an adult now, is that, you run into some money or you get a promotion and you're quick to spend it. And look, I'm from Hartford. I love nice things. I love to get those things, but you have to do it in moderation. And that's not something that we teach young people in our school system. I never had any business classes whatsoever. Once I graduated Hartford Public Schools, I went to school, all Hartford Public Schools throughout my educational experience, and never once did anyone talk to me about credit. Never once did anyone talk to me about how to write a check. Never once, I know checks are outdated now, but nonetheless, it still goes into that balancing, your account. And so, all of those things I suffered very early on with all of those things. I was a young parent. So my wife and I, when we would go to stores, people would take advantage of us. Oh, you want to sign up for this credit card? And it's like, yeah, please do. And I sign up for the credit card, and they'll get, oh, you have $500. I'll be like, I'll be right back. And the next thing you know, I got $500 worth of clothes, because, that's that you think about the here and now, and you think about the idea that you need this right now, and that my babies needed that clothes right now. You don't think about it after. And so those are the lessons learned that we had to learn it the hard way. And I wish now that we had knew that ahead of time, because we just couldn't see a future. And the future that we saw was always very wishful and optimistic and, hopeful, and, oh, we'll just win the lottery. And what will we do if we win the lottery, right? Like, that is so often a conversation that we have in our communities is, what would you do if you win the lottery, right? And so it actually is a mindset shift that you have to take. But when you don't prepare young people, what happens is they bump their head. And what the problem is some people bump their head and learn, but some people bump their head and fall and never come back up. And so that's the difference.
That's big. That is very, very big. It's really, so would you say just either learning the hard way or, you know, shifting it early, think for the future, planning ahead, like that was the shift you made was, hey, I have a present, but I have a future that I'm not wishing for, but I'm planning for.
Yeah, I think it's a combination. Like some people are going to learn, some people have to bump their heads in order to learn, right? That is just naturally inevitable. But one thing that that you can predict that if you don't like if you don't support young people with the opportunities, and they're going to bump their heads, the increase of them being not successful increases. At least arm folks and arm young people or arm everyone with the opportunity to be financially have a higher financial IQ. And then if they decide to bump their heads and, then, you know more, you be more, or I think there's a better quote than that. But the point is that we're not doing anything at all to prepare young people for the business and the economic world and the capitalist system that we have built the foundation of America on. So it doesn't make sense that, capitalism and this capitalist system in America, and Hartford's no different, is kind of the fundamental root core of what we're doing here in America, but yet we don't teach about business and finances in school. It should be a requirement. And so those are the types of things. And if you don't have it in school, it should be as readily accessible as getting your GED or ESL classes, English as a second language classes, right? Like those things should be readily available. And we need to provide opportunities for folks to help them throughout all of this process. When you know better, you do better. That's from Maya Angelou.
Yeah, definitely agree. That's something just being in business I've learned. I'm like, you guys taught me how to get a job, but nobody taught me how to pay taxes. This is a part of my life. Like,
right.
We definitely have to know better and do better and prepare kids before they get. We have a saying where we notice there's a trend. People will make mistakes and struggle in their 20s. They will scramble in their 30s and just be like, I don't know what's going on. And then just be in prayer their whole 40s that maybe I'm going to retire. Maybe, right? And that's just horrible wisdom. Yeah, like just on their knees, Lord, take it. Please. And it's like, no, faith without works is dead. We could have prepared for this, and we have to make it a mental shift to make that happen. And we're excited for the state of Connecticut. They just, passed a law that made financial literacy required in the school system. So just to better prepare our next generation that they're not where we are. I mean, we didn't expect to be in a pandemic and have people laid off and all kinds of strange work situations for 2 years. So that's powerful.
I think it is powerful in terms of policy, and yes, I want to acknowledge that the financial literacy was passed. But one of the things, Selena, that I think it's important is that it doesn't stop there. Right? We have to make sure that it operationalizes in a way that is impactful for young people. Oftentimes, people in politics and politicians themselves, they pass the bill and then they turn and hope and pray that it's going to get delivered in the right fashion. So the first thing I think about when this law was passed is that when is it supposed to be implemented? What curriculum are they going to use? Who's supposed to do it? Is it a requirement? How are they going to track requirement? Is it a pass fail? What level? What level of detail are they doing? I just think about the details because the devil is in the details. And so, are we just doing it as a check mark? And, you took this one class and, there's just so many levels to it. And oftentimes you see policies passed, but if people don't have the level of buy-in, they're just doing it as a check mark, as a requirement that they have to do, but are not really putting their passion and are not really invested in providing that to the scholars who rightfully deserve it.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. We talked briefly outside of here about, studying international politics, and you see it in the international sphere a lot where there's there's resolutions passed, there's agreements, but there's no funding, there's no
Right.
action. And so the world looks the same as it did before you guys had this conversation. And
Right.
the goal is that that's not what will happen with this.
Right.
And so, just you having that mindset, having that experience that you made that shift. Something someone once told me is how you do one thing is how you do everything. And so you as a leader in the city of Hartford, how you live is how you lead. So with that in mind, you have shifted kind of towards being present, but also building a legacy mindset. What is the legacy that you want to see for the city of Hartford and its growth?
I think the first thing that's on, I know we're talking about economics, but this actually plays into economics. And the first thing on everybody's mind is violence and the safety. You have to feel safe going to work. You have to feel safe coming home. It is really the foundation of any economically successful municipality. If you're not feeling safe where you live at, you leave, period.
Yep.
And
Yep.
one of the most refreshing things, as I spoke to folks downtown, and developers and folks who are interested in doing business in Hartford, is that fundamentally they want the same thing. They understand from a business aspect that it's hard to open up a franchise or a restaurant franchise if people are scared to come to the city to attend it. So they want the same thing. And I think at the root cause of any economic plan, you have to discuss the issue of safety. And so, I have a plan for Hartford's success. And at the integral part of it is the safety. And so, without digressing and going into that, I have a plan with a chief violence prevention officer that oversees many layers on that plan. The biggest thing I want to just share is the connectedness to community. And so we need to get back to that. But when I think about Hartford, the first thing that comes to mind is specific areas I think about all the time in terms of economic development, the Northeast. My wife and I, my family and I, my wife and children, we lived in Chappelle, which was a really awesome, it was a really great experience for us, but there was nothing close that we can go to. Unity Plaza looks the same as it did 15, 20 years ago. And there hasn't been any investment in that area. And I think about areas like that where they continue to languish. And you have less than 2% home ownership in those areas where the people actually live in their home, and you just see it there, and the community is hurting so much, and then consequently that's one of the hot spots for the violence. And so, like, all of these things are kind of intertwined, not kind of, they are intertwined, and we need to understand that. But I think about different areas in that, how some areas, have, the Chatterook, the Frog Hollow area, and how it does have some business development. But I was just having lunch with someone in a brand new restaurant on Park Street, and right outside, I spoke to the waitress. I said, what is it that you would look for in a mayor? She said, look right outside. We need help with that. And people are struggling with addiction outside, homelessness, business owners with homelessness in the fronts. And it all really relates. So when I think about a future of Hartford, I think about being able to really tackle those things and meeting folks, and setting goals as a city and holding folks accountable, that are supposed to be delivering services for these communities. And if they're not doing it, then we need to pivot and move on. But I think a Hartford looks like one that celebrates its diversity, celebrates small businesses, understand that small businesses is really the heartbeat. You look at any city across the country, thriving small businesses is really the backbone to everything of every city. We have to understand that we were the insurance capital of the world. We were. That was the big business in the city of Hartford. The only big business that exists in the city of Hartford right now is politics. And so once we understand that and take onus of that, and understanding that using the political power to initiate economic change is the only way. We can no longer sit back, hope, and pray. We have to be intentional about these opportunities. And I see a future where Hartford could be thriving not only in downtown, not only in the West End, but everywhere.
That's powerful. That is powerful.
Thank you.
I think it's exciting when people know that the person leading them is not leading them from a sense of kind of empty analytics, but passion and analytics. And that's where miracles and change happen, is when someone cares, they're invested, and they're not delusional. You know, like you sound very much like, I'm aware of the work that it's going to take to get this done. And I recognize that there's a deeper need here in our city. Like,
there is. Like, you have to meet. So, you know, there's this thing now with this mayoral campaign that everybody's talking about generational wealth and home ownership. Look, I agree with that, right? The leading means to generational wealth is home ownership for people of color. I'm not denying that. But if we understand poverty and understand that there's layers to poverty, you can't talk to someone whose lights is off and is sleeping on the floor about generational wealth and owning a home. They need a job. They need a way out. They need their needs met. They need their light on, their heat on. We need to provide them access to resources to cut that light on. You know, and so, like, we have to understand that there's layers to poverty. We can't paint with a broad brush. What is the barriers? You know, substandard home conditions. Is the light off because the landlord cut it off because he didn't fix his electricity? Or is it because we didn't have the money to pay for it? And how are we budgeting? And so we can't talk about home ownership if we don't talk about the root causes and the extreme poverty that some of our people are facing. And that's the social worker in me. So I get a little bit aggravated when people want to just kind of hope, oh, home ownership. You know, the rent is going sky high. You know, we got landlords who own 2 and 3 family houses who they don't know what else to do. They can't even afford to live there themselves. You know, I was talking to a mom. She's a community member. She has a 3-family house. She's gonna have to apply for the state. Like, she doesn't even know. Like, it's just, you know, she needs benefits. She needs support, and so it is just understanding reality and poverty. And so that's what the Bridge Center would do, is not only helping these small businesses, but helping folks with real and true problems and having them navigate the web of services. The one thing I will say, Selena, is that from an optimistic side and really from a hope, you know, not just a hopeful side, but a practical side, is that there are a lot of programs, there are a lot of people, there are a lot of nonprofits that are here to help, right? That's the blessing in Hartford. The problem is that there's a lot of people, a lot of nonprofits, a lot of businesses that are here to help. And so therefore, the people that need the services have to navigate this web of systems. And so it becomes very difficult. You know, you got to go here to, you know, get your light program and go here for a financial sustainability program. Meanwhile, your child is staying after school and you got to run around, but you don't have a car and you're on the bus, you know, and so people live very complicated lives, and we need to understand that. So please, everyone, when you know, look at the LeBron for Hartford plan, understand the economics are there. And yes, home ownership is an integral part of that. But we have to think about everyone and the diversity of everyone's socioeconomic status so we all can move forward, not just a specific few.
That being said, I just kind of like a closing question. How will you know that the city's on the right track?
We closing already. I could go for a long time. Selena, this is wonderful. This is excellent. How will we know that we are on the right track? I think the first thing is currently we don't have a chief financial officer in the city. And I think the first thing what happens with the chief financial officer is that they come in, they understand the budgets, and then they become accountants and number crunchers. So the last chief financial officer that came in, or the last two, they left within 2 years. There was a quick turnaround. And so what we need is a chief financial officer to come in and be innovative. We need innovation. We can no longer go into things and do the same things and expect different outcomes. And so we have to do that. From the development side and the small business side, we have to understand that we need innovation. We need downtown to be thriving. Yes, we have a bunch of apartments in those buildings, but what are those people going to do on the first floor? We need to create programming and innovative programming on those first floors so that folks that live upstairs has something to do downstairs. I grew up in a time where downtown, you can go to 3 or 4 places, you can hang out in downtown. That is no longer the case. You wouldn't be able to buy clothes downtown, get ice cream downtown, go to, hang out, listen to some good music downtown. It was thriving. And policies that were put in place were intentional because of the people and the young people that were attracted there, and they didn't want that. But look, all those policies and all those changes created the desert as we see it now. Now we got Pratt Street going on now, but we need to proliferate that. And so we need innovative approaches in order to succeed. We no longer can look at a way of the old and the way of the past in order to pay the brighter future for tomorrow.
What would you say is, I just want to clarify, what would you say is like something?
So the chief financial officer. So, how would we be able to track? Okay, yes. So I think, having someone and having really tangible measures. This is that data tracking system. There are systems that folks are using across the country. And so we would have to research those things. How successful are we helping out our small businesses? What is our small business success plans? What does that look like? What are access to grants and opportunities for these small businesses? What does development look like downtown? How many people are visiting downtown? But I think one of the key pieces that myself as a social worker, that no one will really know how to explore, and that gives me a unique lens, is understanding that the human service side of the city can do a better job seeking financial grants from philanthropic organizations, from people that are looking for tax write-offs, for grant management. We need to do a better job getting those grants for those human service agencies so that they can fully fund themselves. So that way the general fund doesn't go to those human services or as much, and we can utilize those general fund monies to plant seeds and to create innovation and to create those other opportunities. And so we can find the answers within ourselves. We don't need someone to come in from out of state or get money from out of state, and have all of these out of state interests for what we're doing. What we need to do is right size what we're doing, provide financial sustainability from the human service element and how we're providing services. And then that way that'll free up money for the general fund. So that way we can be innovative. And God forbid, can you imagine a Lebron administration that can reduce the taxes and the mill rate in the city of Hartford while building up the tax base? It's possible, but it needs management, it needs leadership, and it needs someone to be able to do it, from the human service to the crime to the innovative opportunities. And that's what a Lebron administration would bring.
Thank you. I am very excited for you. I'm excited for really this next election. I know what we're dealing with in Hartford, a lot of cities are dealing with across the country. Countries are dealing with what we're dealing with. And You're absolutely right. People have been using the same financial framework since like 1964. I don't even know. It's time for innovation. So I'm excited for what your vision is when it comes to Hartford and changing and really making it the great city that I personally believe it's always had the capacity to be. And we just haven't stepped into it. So
I love the history aspect of it, right? Our cities, as they were designed historically, were industrial-based cities. Mm-hmm. It's no longer that. And so if we keep approaching and keep developing plans and finances and zoning based upon the knowledge and history of the old industrial complex, then we're not going to be able to move anything into the future. So thank you for that, because it's understanding history and where we are now.
Yeah. And moving forward. Not
And
repeating
moving
it, but
forward,
moving
absolutely. And moving forward, yes.
But yeah, so thank you so much. I'm actually going to
Thank
turn it
you.
back over. I'm going to turn it back over to Candace. Candace, thank you guys so much for your time, for allowing me to have this conversation with Councilman Nick, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. That was really incredible. I was in the background listening to that. And like he said, he could go on for much longer. So I love hearing about it, because it's really important for people to know that you've got your finger on the pulse of what's really happening here in the city, not only because you have the professional experience to lead the city into its next chapter, but because you have the lived experience and you know exactly what it feels like to be in that in so many of the situations that many of us find ourselves in at one point or the other. I actually heard Councilman say the other day, so I don't know what the number is, but so many Americans, and I would guess that the same number goes in Hartford. The same thing is true in Hartford. So many people are one paycheck away from a dire emergency, right? Like your car breaks down and you don't have enough money for rent. Like it's so real for so many of us that you can be tricked into feeling like everything's fine because you've got a good job. And the pandemic showed us that a lot of things change really quickly overnight. And it's really important to have someone at the helm who knows how to. My mom said the earlier today, like, I know how to make bread. Like during the pandemic, everybody started making sourdough. Like everybody started learning a skill. Like I know how to take care of myself. If I don't have all the luxuries that I'm used to, I will know how to make it make sense and make the sense connect, right? And so that's what I think is important in a leader, and other people who haven't experienced that, how to, make a sandwich when there's nothing really delicious to put in between. They don't know how to do that for the rest of the community. So I'm really excited about the future. Selena, it has been a joy and an honor to meet you. It feels like we've known you for so long, and it's only been maybe a month. So
Yes.
So thank you very much for your time and your expertise. I think that sometimes we think that expertise can only come from the more seasoned folks in our community, and folks like you and even our young councilman here show that expertise comes in many forms, in many with many varied backgrounds. That's what diversity is about. So thank you so much for lending your expertise. To folks watching, thank you so much for taking your time and energy. You could have been any place. You could have been any place right now, but you chose to be here with us. That is something I took out of the the archive from Councilman Lebron. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with us. If you have any questions about anything that you've heard tonight, please do reach out to us at lebronforhartford@gmail.com. You can find out more information about Councilman Lebron's vision for the future of Hartford on hartford.com. No, that's not what it's called. It's called lebronforhartford.com. If you want to learn more about Selena and her work, you can find her at Freedom Reformed with an ED at the end. You can find her on LinkedIn or IG. Or say something in the comments and she'll reach out to you directly. Again, thank you so much for your time. I'm Candace Dorman, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye, everyone. One moment. Stop recording. That's what I was looking for.